What happens when one of America's most seasoned interviewers sits across from a royal who thought she was ready for anything? What began as a routine morning segment quickly spiraled into one of the most uncomfortable and talked about confrontations ever aired on national television. Before we dive into the shocking clash between George Stephanopoulos and Meghan Markle, the moment that sent shockwaves across the internet, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Because trust us, you're going to want to see how this entire interview unraveled. It started simply enough. Meghan Markle arrived at the Good Morning America studios to promote her latest charitable foundation. But something unexpected had already shifted behind the scenes. George Stephanopoulos was filling in for Robin Roberts at the last minute. A seemingly harmless change that would end up flipping the entire interview on its head. "Thank you for joining us this morning," Stephanopoulos began with professional ease. "Your foundation has been making headlines recently." Meghan smiled, poised and polished. "Yes, George. We've been doing incredible work, especially around mental health awareness and supporting women returning to the workforce. The response has been truly overwhelming. But what viewers didn't see, what the cameras didn't catch, was the quiet handoff of a note from a production assistant to Stephanopoulos. As his eyes scanned the paper, his tone shifted. "Before we continue," he said, pivoting, "I want to address some reporting that just came across my desk." His next words dropped like a bomb. "There appears to be a discrepancy between the public financial statements your organization filed and what several donors are now claiming about their actual contributions." A flicker of surprise crossed Meghan's face, a micro-expression, quickly buried beneath years of media training. "I'm not sure what reports you're referencing," she replied coolly. "Our financials are entirely transparent." But Stephanopoulos pressed forward, now holding up a folder. "One donor, a Mr. Winter, claims his $10 Hunsen donation reported as $100 and in your filings." The studio went dead silent. "That is absolutely false?" Meghan responded, her voice sharper now. "And frankly, I'm surprised someone of your stature would ambush a guest with unverified claims." "These aren't unverified," George shot back. "We have the donor's receipts. We have the thank you letters from your foundation reflecting the real amounts. And we have the public filings, showing inflated figures. Care to explain the gap?" Behind the scenes, chaos erupted. The control booth began signaling for a commercial break. But Stephanopoulos ignored them. "This interview was meant to focus on our mission," Meghan said, visibly trying to steady herself. "Not baseless accusations. If there are discrepancies," she added, "they're likely minor accounting errors, not misconduct." But Stephanopoulos wasn't done. "Over the past 3 weeks, multiple journalists have reached out to your foundation about these discrepancies. All of them reportedly received cease and desist letters from your legal team. No answers, just threats. Would you consider that an appropriate response to legitimate questions about a public charity?" A publicist moved toward the stage, attempting to cut the interview short, but Meghan raised her hand to stop them. "Your sources seem to have painted a very selective picture," she said, "one that completely ignores the real impact our work is having." She looked directly at him. "This feels less like journalism and more like character assassination." "I'm after one thing," Stephanopoulos replied. "The truth." He flipped to another page in his folder. "Let's talk about the organizations your foundation claims to partner with. Of the 5 listed prominently on your website, 3 say there is no formal partnership. 2 say they specifically asked not to be associated with your brand after early talks fell apart." Meghan's demeanor hardened. "It's interesting," she said coldly, "how you've compiled an entire dossier of accusations without ever once reaching out to us for comment before this segment." "We did reach out," he replied. "Multiple times, in fact. Your reps told us all questions would be answered today. I have the emails right here." He held them up. Meghan reached for her water glass. Her hand was trembling slightly. She took a sip, her eyes locked on his. You came prepared for a very different conversation than the one we were told would happen, she said slowly. I have to question the motives behind this ambush. It's not an ambush, Stephanopoulos replied. It's a series of fair, direct questions about public discrepancies. You've made transparency your brand. Now's your chance to live up to it. What I welcome, George, is fairness. Meghan snapped back, something that's been consistently denied to me by the media. If there are legitimate concerns, we'll address them through the proper legal channels. But I will not participate in a scripted takedown of work that is changing lives. But then came one final question. Your website claims your foundation funded a new community center in Detroit last year, but city officials say no such facility exists. In fact, the address listed on your site, it's a vacant lot. The question hung in the air like smoke. Meghan stared at him. Her expression was frozen. Then finally, with clipped finality, she spoke. I'm not going to dignify that with a response. It's clear this interview was arranged under false pretenses. And just like that, the damage was done. Stephanopoulos, what's becoming increasingly clear, Miss Markle, are the glaring discrepancies between your foundation's public claims and the actual numbers. As journalists, we have a responsibility to pursue the truth, especially when it involves soliciting donations from everyday Americans. Markle Cooley. You know what I find fascinating, George, the selective intensity of your journalistic ethics. Do all your guests get this level of scrutiny? Or is there something about me that demands this treatment? Stephanopoulos, in 30 years, I've asked tough questions of presidents, prime ministers, and CEOs. Your foundation has raised millions based on claims that now appear exaggerated, if not outright fabricated. The public deserves answers. Markle, and they'll get them, but not through a hit job disguised as an interview. Stephanopoulos, calmly, your team received all documentation yesterday. I have the delivery confirmation and an email from your chief of staff acknowledging receipt. Would you like me to show it? A flicker crosses Markle's face, momentary confusion. She hadn't been told. Markle's measurette, I was not made aware of that. Stephanopoulos, flat. That's unfortunate. But now that we're here, let's talk specifics. Your donors deserve transparency. Markle, firmer now. My foundation has impacted thousands. If there are administrative issues, which I'm not conceding, they're clerical, not malicious. Certainly not worth this public ambush. Stephanopoulos. Administrative discrepancies is one way to put it. Your foundation claimed $2 million in grants last year. Our investigation found only 800,000 made it to recipients. That's a 1.2 million gap. Is that a clerical error? Mock, without seeing your documents, I can't speak to specifics. What I can say is our finances are transparent. Our annual reports are public and reviewed by a respected firm. Stephanopoulos, Wellington and Associates. They told us they were hired for a limited review, not a full audit, as your foundation has repeatedly claimed. They didn't verify the existence or distribution of your grants. Were you aware of that? Markle glances briefly off camera before answering. Markle, there's clearly a misunderstanding. Their review was standard for nonprofits of our size. Stephanopoulos, holding a document. Their own engagement letter says otherwise. Not an audit and should not be described as such. Yet your foundation has used the word audit 27 times publicly this year. Marquis defensive. I'm not responsible for every piece of messaging. We have a team that handles communications. Stephanopoulos, so you're saying you didn't know your foundation was misrepresenting its financial oversight? Marka, I'm saying if any language was inaccurate, it wasn't deliberate, unlike what's clearly happening here. Stephanopoulos, and what exactly is happening here? Markle, a targeted effort to discredit my foundation, and by extension me, the ambush tactics, the selective framing, it's all very clear. Stephanopoulos, what's clear is that you've deflected every question about the actual figures by attacking the motives behind them. That's not accountability. Marle, what's also clear is that you came into this with your mind made up. This isn't journalism, George. It's theater. Stephanopoulos, I came with documents, testimonies, financial records. I came with questions, not conclusions. Markle, and I came here to talk about the lives we've changed, the women we've helped. Sulos, let's talk about that. You've claimed your program helped 5,000 women return to the workforce. We contacted your supposed partners, including the Department of Labor. None could verify those numbers. So how did you get to 5,000? Markle, internal tracking. Participant surveys. Stephanopoulos, can we see that data? Markle, it contains sensitive personal information. We don't release private data to media outlets. Skalalos, anonymized data. A pause. Her publicist appears just behind her, as if sensing the shift. But Markle holds her ground. Markle's with finality. I came here today in good faith, to talk about the work. Not to be dissected under a spotlight by someone performing an inquisition. This isn't an interview anymore. It's an ambush. Meghan Markle's tone was firm as she unclipped her microphone. I think we're done here. But George Stephanopoulos didn't flinch. Before you go, Miss Markle. There's one last item I'd like your comment on. She paused mid-motion. We've obtained an internal email from your foundation's CFO to your personal account, he continued. In it, he voices serious concerns over what he calls unsustainable discrepancies in financial reporting. He claims you instructed him to, quote, maintain the narrative regardless of the back-end realities. Would you care to explain what he meant? A long silence fell over the studio. Meghan froze, her hands still resting on the mic, her eyes locked on Stephanopoulos. When she finally spoke, it was almost a whisper. Where did you get that? We protect our sources, he replied calmly. But I can tell you the authenticity has been confirmed by digital forensic experts. Would you like to respond to the content? Before she could answer, her publicist stepped in, physically moving between Meghan and the camera. This interview is over, she declared. You were not authorized to ask these questions, and my client will not be responding further. Stephanopoulos remained steady, turning toward the camera as Meghan and her team began to exit. We invited Miss Markle's foundation to provide any clarifying documentation regarding the discrepancies we uncovered. That invitation remains open. We will update our viewers with any response we receive. The cameras kept rolling, capturing what no one expected, Meghan Markle walking off Good Morning America. Back in the studio, as the lights dimmed slightly and Meghan disappeared from view, Stephanopoulos shuffled his papers. Well, he said with a dry calm. That was unexpected. Let's go to a commercial. When the broadcast returned, Stephanopoulos sat alone, facing the camera directly. For those just joining us, he began, we've just concluded, or rather, abruptly ended, an interview with Meghan Markle regarding her foundation. Robin Roberts rejoined him at the desk. George, that was a lot. Can you explain what just happened? Our team has been investigating irregularities in the financial reporting of Miss Markle's foundation for several months, he explained. All documents mentioned today were independently verified and sent to her team well in advance. In fact, we received confirmation that they were reviewed yesterday afternoon. Are you saying her team acknowledged receipt before the interview? Roberts asked. Yes, he confirmed. We have the email from her chief of staff timestamped at 20:17 p.m. yesterday. At that moment, Stephanopoulos glanced off camera. I'm being told Miss Markle's publicist is on the line with a statement. The studio audio shifted as the publicist's voice came through the speaker. Good morning. Let me be clear, my client was blindsided. These accusations were not properly flagged in advance. The documents were sent to a general email inbox less than 24 hours ago, with no indication of their urgency. Stephanopoulos calmly replied, Would you like me to read the email from your team confirming receipt and intent to review those documents? A pause. My client was not personally briefed, the publicist said eventually. There was clearly a breakdown in internal communication. So, to be clear, Stephanopoulos pressed. You are now confirming your team did receive the documents. There was a miscommunication, she repeated. Miss Markle was unprepared for these specific questions. We ask for the opportunity to properly review and respond at a later time. That opportunity remains open, Stephanopoulos said. Miss Markle is welcome back any time to address this with full preparation. We'll take that under advisement, the publicist replied, before ending the call. What happens next? Roberts asked. We continue following the evidence, Stephanopoulos said. So far, what we've found suggests a troubling pattern of financial misrepresentation. Serious enough to warrant continued investigation. When charitable donations are involved, transparency isn't optional. It's a duty. Suddenly, Stephanopoulos looked toward a monitor. We're going live now to Miss Markle, who is making a statement outside the building. The feed cut to Meghan, standing at a podium surrounded by microphones. Reporters clustered in front. What happened in that studio wasn't journalism, she said clearly. It was a calculated attack aimed at discrediting the work of my foundation. Mr. Stephanopoulos had no interest in discussing the thousands of women we've helped, only in generating headlines. A reporter shouted from the crowd. Did your team receive the documents beforehand, as ABC claims? There was clearly a breakdown in communication, Meghan replied. I personally was not briefed. I was blindsided. Will you address the specific allegations about financial discrepancies? Another asked. My foundation operates with full transparency, she said firmly. We have nothing to hide, and we will release a full statement in due time. The camera lingered on her face, calm, but burning with tension, before the feed cut back to the studio. Any suggestion of financial impropriety is categorically false. Meghan Markle said firmly. We'll welcome proper scrutiny of our work, but through appropriate channels, not ambush interviews designed to boost ratings. But the press wasn't done. What about the internal email Stephanopoulos referenced? Another reporter pressed. The one where you allegedly instructed your CFO to maintain the narrative regardless of back and realities. Markle's expression didn't waver. I will not dignify leaked communications that may have been taken out of context or even altered, she replied. What I will say is that our foundation stands by its impact reports and financial statements. Back in the studio, George Stephanopoulos turned directly to the camera. Miss Markle is entitled to her view of what happened today. But let me be crystal clear. Every question I asked was based on verified documentation vetted by our investigative team. This wasn't about spectacle. It was about accountability. That email stands out, Robin Roberts added. Can you elaborate? Certainly, Stephanopoulos replied. The email was sent by the Foundation's CFO to Miss Markle roughly 3 months ago. In it, he expressed concern about what he called unsustainable discrepancies in the Foundation's reporting. Most troubling of all was her alleged directive to maintain the narrative regardless of back and realities. And your team verified that email? Roberts asked. Yes, Stephanopoulos confirmed. The digital signature was authenticated by forensic analysts. 2 independent sources within the Foundation also confirmed viewing the exchange. The broadcast cut to Markle outside the studio. I have dedicated my life to service, she told the press. My foundation is an extension of that commitment. We will continue our work despite these baseless attacks. Will you sue ABC News? A reporter shouted. Her publicist stepped in. We are exploring all legal options at this time. No further questions. Is it true that 2 of your board members resigned in the past hour? Another voice called out. Markle froze. Her publicist whispered something, and then answered tersely. We have no comment on internal matters at this time. Back in the studio, Stephanopoulos shared another development. We've just received a statement from Wellington and Associates, the financial firm mentioned earlier. They clarify that they performed a limited review, not a full audit, and explicitly told the foundation not to present their work as an audit in any public context. That aligns with one of the key discrepancies you raised, Roberts observed. Stephanopoulos replied, "It points to a broader issue, the widening gap between what the foundation claims publicly and what can be independently verified." He then addressed viewers directly. "Throughout my career, I've believed journalism plays a critical role in our democracy. We ask tough questions not to provoke, but to seek truth. The questions today weren't personal. They were about documented inconsistencies that demanded answers." Roberts closed the segment. "We'll continue to follow this story and bring you updates as they develop." The Stephanopoulos looked into the camera one last time. "When no stories like this can be uncomfortable. But when it comes to public figures and charitable giving, you deserve the truth, and our full effort to uncover it." As the show faded to commercial, Roberts added, "We'll be right back after these messages." And finally, to the viewers of the recap, thanks for watching this breakdown of one of the most explosive interviews in morning television history. If you found this analysis insightful, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our deep dives into media's most shocking moments. What did you think about how George Stephanopoulos handled the interview? Was he out of line? Or just doing his job? Sound off in the comments below. And we'll see you next time.